All right. All right, so we got the video going as well. All right, great. All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to call the November 16th, 2022 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. In attendance is myself, David Gerstenhaber, Chairman, Vice Chair Donna D, Supervisors Johnson and Dowling. Also in attendance are our Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, our Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, and is Sarah on with us? Can't see. Doesn't look like Sarah is in attendance, and there are two members of the public. All right, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So now let's open up for public comment. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the minutes.
All right, my name is John Arbach. I'm a township resident, taxpayer. I have comments about the Act 167 and a few minor comments about the budget. I've made this comment about the Act 167 a number of times, and I just want to make sure that the board understands it, that there is an option in the current proposal to retain the original simplified approach, which is much easier for township residents to manage stormwater. And just a little bit of background, that when the original act was proposed in 2013, it was pretty onerous. It put a lot of requirements on residents to manage the stormwater systems. And then LTL developed a simplified approach for us, and the whole board worked on that. And the idea was for smaller projects that people did not have to hire an engineer to do it. They could do it on their own. It generated a little over design just to make sure that the tables covered all the requirements. But the main thing was that they didn't have to hire an engineer. So that was the important thing. And what got my attention to it is about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, when they first started talking about reworking the current Act 167. I was at a meeting where some engineers were charged with developing the changes. And they talked about the simplified approach and what they're proposing to do with it. Quite frankly, I was horrified. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that the board understood that that's a really important thing to maintain. So no more comments there. Just a little bit on budget. We know last year we ended up with an enormous increase in EIT income for no real explanation. We ever figured it out. And this year is tracked along with it. Somewhere along, not quite as high, but right along with it. But the precaution is for next year, I think the country's headed for a real recession, and that will affect EIT income because people will lose positions and jobs. Your real estate income is constant because it's based on the product of the total assessed value of the township and the tax rate. That won't change. So that income is very steady and predictable. The EIT is the thing I'd worry about. Just be careful with discretionary spending as the year goes on. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on from public comment, is there any additional public comments?
We talk about Act 167 in here? I don't remember. Is it?
On the agenda, I just
Okay, because I just want to give you comfort that we did look at it line by line to see what they changed, and the simplified proposal that's still there. So I don't want you to worry about it. Okay.
the intent of the board for this new ordinance that we're writing is to maintain the simplified approach, not make it more complicated. So.
Approval of minutes. So you have the most current version of the October 19th, 2022 minutes, and I'll make a motion and we can talk about it. So I make a motion that the board approve the October 19th, 2022 minutes. I'm sorry, Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Can I have a second for that, please?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, any discussion? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, great. The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Donna. So now we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is appointing a supervisor to take over the vacant seat that Nancy Morris left when she resigned her position. So I have a motion in front of me here. But we were going to have our discussion before I make the motion because the motion is written such that I need to appoint somebody. So, you know, what I guess I'm going to open to the board. We have a couple of options. We can just start appointing people, or we can start talking about some of the resumes. And just to remind folks, you know, we went through this not so long ago. I think it was less than a year ago, about a year ago, maybe. And we received a number of resumes at that point. All of them were fantastic. And we opened it up for additional township residents to come and put their application in if they were interested. I think we made that announcement at the workshop meeting. And I think I want to thank Jim for reaching out to the folks who previously applied to make sure that they were still interested in the position for us to review. So that was the process. Tonight, what we're going to do is maybe talk about what our thoughts are, and then we'll make an appointment. Right. So I guess what I can do is just go around the horn and have people.
Okay.
You can start.
Okay. So as you said, the folks that came before us the last time we had an appointment, they were all excellent, but it came down to a vote between Stefan and Dawn. And Dawn, great choice. I think you've been wonderful on the board. But I think this is an opportunity to reach out to Stefan if the board decides to move towards him. Stefan's done this job before. He was excellent. He's balanced. He's thoughtful. He listens. He has a great finance background, love of nature. So he has a good balance that I think would be helpful to the board. But that's just, my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. Jim?
Yeah. Thank you. So I think it's important to mention that the three people that actually, I'll call it interviewed last December, I think, I called each one of them. Victoria Knotts did not want to put her name in the hat. She got a promotion at work and she's doing something with the church. She's full. So she doesn't want to. The other two were Bill Finch and Brent Van Lith. Both of them were willing to be considered for this. And they also said they would like to be considered for running for the election next year too. So I would also echo Donna's statements about Stefan. He's got the most experience of being on this board of anybody that we've mentioned before.
Okay.
Well, I hate to be a broken record, but I've heard very nice things about Stefan, and I have not yet to meet him, but I've heard very, very wonderful things. I love that he's had a history with the board. I love the fact that he loves the park and he loves nature. And so that's very close to my heart. So I felt very confident that, he came in second to me last time. So I thought that would be a very good choice as well.
Okay. All right. So I think I'll echo the board's opinion. We had a lot of good candidates, and when I was making my decision who I wanted to appoint, it was either Stefan or Dawn for all the reasons that that the board has brought up previously. So why don't I just read the motion?
Did no one else apply? No, did we have something on the website or anything? Yeah, we did. So no one else inquired. about
Yeah, I
it.
should. Yeah, well, I should. I maybe add that we didn't receive any other additional resumes.
Don made a comment at the workshop meeting, the meeting videos posted to the website.
I just wanted to make sure that's okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors appoint Stefan Torres to fulfill Nancy Moschel Morris's remaining term, which will end on December 31st, 2023. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 4-0. Welcome aboard, Stefan, sucker. All right.
We're back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to schedule an opportunity to swear in the new supervisor?
Yes, so the next step will be to have Stefan come into the office and have him sworn in. The staff is well versed in this. We've already done it once. So we'll get him sworn in, and I think we anticipate that his first meeting will be the workshop meeting in December, where we start deliberating the budget. So
Just so when you swear him in, give him a copy of the budget.
yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, Melissa.
Okay.
Okay. The October 2022 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $251,892.80. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $30,000, $482.66. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $8,365.56. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $1,749.52. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $1,742.40, leaving a balance in all funds of $2,356,031.23.
Thank you, Donna. All in favor, say aye.
Sorry. So late last week, I emailed everybody the draft 2023 budget. We're not approving the budget tonight whatsoever. This is only so I can get it advertised and post it publicly. And then we can take questions at the workshop meeting or all throughout the rest of the month. If anybody has any questions.
So there is a motion. I make a motion, we'll make a motion to advertise the budget.
Correct. And I just need that so I can get it posted.
Yeah. And I think really, unless there's anything glaring that we need to revise before it's posted, which I don't believe there's anything here that we need to do that.
I like I said, I have
New questions.
I have, numerous comments, like just, like normally it's a carryover from the year before. And I noticed that for certain, accounts and other accounts. Once again, it's going to be extra money, not less money. So, and there was, the $20,000 that we had agreed to put in the open space fund. I anticipate that would be a separate fund. I don't want it in the open space fund per se, and I saw it in the open space fund. Do you know what I mean? I wanted it to be, I thought a separate.
It is a separate line item. in the open space reserve fund.
Yeah, I don't want it, I'm only one of all of us and we'll have a conversation, but I wanted a separate, just like we have a reserve fund. I anticipated there'll be an open space reserve fund that this money would go to, because we want to have the flexibility of taking it out if we choose to.
It is.
It is,
No,
it's in
it's
the
in-
line item.
It's in the open space fund.
It's in the open space fund, but it has its own line item for reserve fund.
Yeah, but that, to me, that means it's still in the fund. So.
Oh, I see. You want it to
Out.
bring it out of that.
Still titled that, but out.
Yeah, right.
Out of that. Okay.
Just, and then, just because we have because I want the flexibility. I hope nothing terrible happens, but if we ever have to use it for something else. If it, my worry is that if it's in the open space fund, then it's out, we've allocated it to the open space fund and we don't have that flexibility. And the other question I had was, I didn't see the American Relief Fund, or is that somewhere else?
That wasn't in there?
I didn't see it. And just to the public, I apologize. I did not look at this until an hour before the meeting and I should have done it sooner than that.
No, it's not it.
So I think if you could just maybe look at some of that, particularly the American Relief Fund. I don't see it as its own little box, its own little. Okay. I think that would be helpful. And I could send you an email tomorrow if that helps, Melissa.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you can ask
any
some of the-
questions, like, I'm open to,
Well, and we'll have a chance to look at it.
Yeah, this is only, yeah.
Yeah.
this is just preliminary.
Yes.
And then I had some questions on the amounts, but that's more like a conversation of, as opposed, it's not right or wrong, it's just what's your rationale. Okay, so I can send you an email tomorrow.
Sure.
But I would vote for it. I would still vote for it to be advertised with those caveats.
So I will make a motion that the board adopts the proposed 2023 township. No, that's not it. We want to advertise,
Advertised in the paper.
because the way this motion is that we're going to adopt. It's, I make a motion, yeah, that we agree to advertise the proposed 2023 budget in the paper, and to have Jeff post the budget to the township website. May I have a second?
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Don,
Yep, I'd like to introduce Greg Sachs for the Pro Committee report.
Hello, everyone. So, few things. First, just an update on the tree planting. The other day, Paul Overton, another volunteer, and I went through the Triangle area planting in Franklin Preserve, and we mulched it with the modified 2A stone mulch. It's a recommendation from Stroud Water Research to prevent voles from killing the young trees. Also, the educational signage has been installed over at the cross-in planting. So what's left at this stage is to install the modified 2A mulch at the cross-in planting, and then just maintenance from there. The Canada thistle, we did contract red tail restoration. They got the process going on that. As we discussed before, it's a long-term type process, so it's not a one and done type thing. But he did go through and hand sprayed 1/3 of the meadow, only targeting the thistle versus spraying out, spraying everything. The reason for that is to get rid of the thistle, but also keep the good plants that will, hopefully outbattle the thistle, or at least put up a fight, versus if you go through and spray the entire field, you're basically starting from scratch, and usually the invasive plants are going to win when you just clear everything. So we hope to continue that process this spring. The allotted funds that we gave to him to do that, he's only used half of them. So the other half he'll get back out there in the spring. With this cold temperature and the freeze, it's too late to continue the process. But we got it going, and like I said, we'll continue that in the spring. We did install or have installed one memorial tree located down in the second parking lot at Crossan Park. I think there was some confusion whether or not the actual plaque has been ordered yet. But the hard part of actually getting the tree in the ground has been done. So other than that, that's all I had. I was going to pass it over to Paul if he's available to discuss the Banffshire Bridge.
Yeah, hi. Okay, thanks, Craig.
Yep.
After a long wait, we did start working on the Banffshire Bridge. We put the foundation timbers in. I went and picked them up myself at Delaware County Supply, and we installed them and then moved the telephone poles in place on top of the new timbers, which was the hard part we were most concerned of. We used the old telephone poles, including the one that somebody had vandalized, the short pole, 7 feet short. So I think it'll work out because we moved the supports in a little closer. The center of the bridge, we'll have to use some framing to make sure the center is as supported as the middle, in case a horse walks on the bridge. So for foot traffic, it's fine the way it is, but we'll have to brace it up a little bit in case a horse steps on it. The decking is a 3-inch by 8-inch rough sawn pressure treated lumber. And Jeff ordered that from Delaware County Supply. And I think that's due like the first week of December. It was like a 4-week delivery, 5-week delivery, something like that. So when that comes in, then we'll arrange for volunteers to continue on the bridge. In the meanwhile, in the weeks while we're waiting on that, we have to center the telephone poles and secure them to the foundation and level them. So that's not a lot of work while we wait on the decking. So that's the good news, that we're moving along with the bridge finally.
That's great, Paul. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Any questions?
Hey, Paul, you'd mentioned shoring up the center. Are you going to shore that up to the timbers, or how's that work in the center?
I don't have a drawing, but when I said the center, so there's 3 telephone poles. The center telephone pole is 7 feet short. So the center span is supported, the big spans. It's the little spans at each end that don't have a middle support for about 4 feet on one end and 3 feet on the other end. So we'll just put some framing in there.
I see. Okay. Thanks. I thought I was thinking it was the middle of the bridge. Okay.
No, it wasn't cut in half. It was just trimmed at the top.
Okay.
Yeah. So where the 3 poles are needed, which is the long spans, we have it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anything else from the pro?
Nope, that's all I had.
All right. Well, thank you. As always, great work, folks. Appreciate it.
Okay, I have the zoning officer's report. This report is prepared by the zoning and code enforcement officer. It includes the number of permits processed, the number of inspections performed, and the funds received in the month of October 2022. In the month of October 2022, 4 permits were issued, $595.50 in building fees, $450 in miscellaneous fees, and 0 in recreation open space, and 0 in impact fees were collected. 13 inspections were performed. And I think next we have Paul Agassi with the HARB report.
Thank you. Thank you. The HARB met on November 1st and discussed a number of the meetings, but a fair amount of what I'm actually going to relate happens to have actually occurred since our meeting. I have spoken again with Crystal Crampton, who I have not talked to for a while. She is the vice chair of Pennsylvania Hallowed Grounds and the woman who led the restoration of historic Bucktoe Cemetery in the Kennett area. She now is also the historian for the UAME Church and will be leading the church's involvement probably with respect to the Churchill Cemetery. And so basically I see the Historical Commission as being involved in a secondary supportive capacity with this going forward. She does not expect to be doing anything of significance until after the new year. She does still envision cleanup work beginning sometime in February 2023. She will attempt to come in and actually meet with the Historical Commission in our January meeting, if that can be worked out. She would like to meet with the supervisors in your February meeting, if this can be worked out. And she also wants to hold a sort of conference of volunteer leaders, people who've been actively involved, as well as the leadership of the Galilee UAME Church in Avondale, which is the successor to the Churchill Church that's no longer there. And that would start, she would like to handle that starting with a visit to the cemetery, which I've seen many times, but a lot of people haven't. And then basically adjourn to the Galilee Church and finish up the discussion there. So this will be after the new year, mostly in January and February, depending on people's schedules.
And weather.
Well, yeah, I think as long as we don't get significant ice or snow, we should be able to do it. But things have changed pretty quickly recently. We talked a little bit about the Mason-Dixon Art Corner connectivity project, partly because you probably know that what was the Big Elk Creek section of the White Clay Creek Preserve is now a separate state park. And it's unclear to us how this is ultimately going to impact, if it will impact at all, the connectivity project. The park is going to have its own assistant manager. And I've learned through meetings with London Britain, the Historical Commission, their members are very active in relations with the White Clay Creek Preserve, because some of their most prominent historic buildings are actually in the preserve. For example, the Baptist Meeting House, which is down in the ruins of the Evans House. And it appears that the National Park Service and basically DCNR, we're working on a White Clay Creek Big Elk Foundation document that has wrapped up in October, and DNR is going to be responsible now for the development of two master plans, one each for the preserve and the new state park. So this is really outside of my area, but I thought it was important to bring to the attention of the board because I don't know how closely we're following this as a municipality, but it has significant implications for the development of the parklands, because a state park will have far fewer restrictions than the preserve does. And I can't tell you anything about what the state may have in mind, but it is something that I would encourage the township to get involved in, so that we know what's going on, and especially so that residents who live near the park don't get blindsided by sudden constructions. They have large parking lots, that sort of thing. And I'm not saying DCNR is not forthcoming, but they don't always interact well with municipalities. We had a historic structure that, while it was not a significant one, was demolished. It's if you know where the current parking lot is on Strickerville Road, where the line of pines stands on one side, well, that was a windbreak for a house. And when they tore that down and built a parking lot, which reminds me a little bit of a song, and yeah, an old song. Well, I'm retired, so. And that, we did not hear about that from them. They never came to the township to even let the township know that it was being demolished, and it was in the process of redoing the map of historic resources and checking certain things out that I realized we lost. A historic structure. I don't think this was a particularly damaging loss, but it was not a particularly ugly house either. And now that they're going to have the park office located in the White Clay Creek Preserve, it seems to me they might have benefited from holding on to that house and giving it a little rehab, because they could have their offices right there. We had a nice talk by David Porter on collecting and preserving local history that was held jointly with the New London Area Historical Society. That occurred on November 10th. And it was quite well received. We had about 60 people, a sort of rough estimate, looking at the number of seats and the people there. We had a very nice turnout. I was pleased to see that. The Planning Commission may be taking up a review of proposed changes to Chapter 11, which covers the historic district, perhaps as early as December meeting, but that process is underway. So at some point, you will be looking at that. At a meeting that I attended with the Chester County Historic Preservation Network, I learned for the first time that there are nationwide, state, and a county boards that are developing plans for America's 250th birthday, at least relating to the Declaration of Independence, which is in 26. It's not that far off. And at some point, the county will be seeking to involve municipalities. I don't have a time frame for that to tell you about. Even though their events were involving historical related type of events, and they were looking at sites that would be accessible to the public and could be used to hold events, they had not yet apparently thought of involving historical commissions. I'm sure that some of this will all come down at some point. It strikes me that it's not impossible that we might find ourselves involved in something related to the Mason-Dixon line down here, whether it occurs in the state park or in the preserve, where there are several prominent monuments along the border with both Maryland and Delaware. But to be honest, I'm guessing at that. Finally, I'd like to inform you that the Historical Commission, working with the Township Operations Manager, has acquired something I can only describe as a truly unique item. It is the manuscript journal of the early years of the Mount Olivet Free Christian Church. Those of you who are familiar with the ruins, they're down on Mount Olivet Road. There's near where Mount Olivet Road meets Walker Road. They're actually up Walker Road a little bit. This is a one-of-a-kind document that is a record of the founding of the church, this life, of people who lived in the township in the mid 1800s. And after a fair amount of discussion, and after I actually tried to interest the Chester County History Center, which was interested but was under a budget embargo until the beginning of the year, we decided to proceed with the purchase. And I'm in the process of photographing the pages so that we'll be able to put this online for everyone to see, and educating myself on how to take care of a volume that is 170 years old. I've only had a chance to look in detail at the first few pages, but I think it will be very interesting.
Paul,
For
was
the
it
people of
privately
Township.
owned? Is it,
What?
was it privately owned or by?
It was the very fact that we even learned of this was purely by accident. There are a number of agglomerative booksellers that are competitive to Amazon. One of them is Abe Books, which I purchased materials from before. And I was doing research on the Free Christian Church, which is a small Protestant sect in the mid 1800s. And they're known colloquially and probably not preferably from their point of view as Plummerites after the pastor who was their prime founder. And so I just happened to hit this page, which actually contains some information on them I wasn't familiar with and was really happy to have, and then just found myself as I say, in a bit of a quandary. It is something that belongs in the township or belongs in the county as both a research document. I was briefly started reading, as I was glancing through it, what was a letter, I believe, I didn't pay enough attention to be sure, from the leader of the sect to the members of the church, which, by the time they'd settled down here. And it's like reading an epistle from Paul. It has that language, that style. And just in the first pages, I recognize any number of names who lived around Walker Road in the 1840s. So it's really going to add a lot to our understanding of that period in the township. So I'm very pleased to have it. I would have been happy to have the History Center acquire it, but it's really there. This is something that belongs back in Chester County. The bookseller was in Georgia, as it happens.
Huh.
Yeah,
That's interesting. How did he come across it?
I don't know, and I don't know how much Jeff was the one who had the real discussions with him. So I'm a little slim at that end in terms of my knowledge.
The only thing he would tell me is that he was selling it for a private individual.
Oh,
It wasn't his.
Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah. It just
I mean,
interesting if there's a vein of historical documents out there that.
I mean, I
This
didn't
is
know,
connected
to
to-
be frank, I didn't know that it existed, that it was there to be acquired. Like I say, I literally stumbled on this
Yeah, it's great.
a couple months
It's
ago.
interesting. Good.
But yeah, so I need to come in and sort of try and photograph 10 pages or so at a time and then get them into a document. It will ultimately, because of the level of detail I'm trying to get on the pages, will not be something that people will be able to email around, but we can put it on the township website, the history website, and it will be easy to download and read it. It will, and if you take the document I've started to make and you raise the PDF level to 200%, it is absolutely clear, and the person who wrote it, at least the initial parts, had perfect penmanship.
Yeah, we
So
were just looking at it.
you have
I
no
looked
trouble
at it.
reading it. So I think this is truly a historic treasure for the township.
That's cool.
So
Congratulations.
Thanks, Paul. You read different things than I do at night. I'll tell you that.
well, I was trying to do a little further research on, this sort of thing. Like I said, I just stumbled on this. Sometimes you have to get down into the third or fourth page of Google Hits, and I do that. I'm an English major. Thank you very much. Are there any questions about anything that I said?
No.
No? Okay, I'll turn my.
Did you have a chance at all to talk to, was it Susan Moon about looking at the?
I've talked to Susan Moon. I've talked to Susan Moon. Susan Moon indicated that she might be available. I mentioned it in an email to the property owner, and at the moment I haven't heard anything back from him. So I want to make sure that there apparently could be issues in terms of insurance issues for the architect in terms of consulting without a contract. So I want to make sure that I'm not asking her to put herself into a position that could cause complications for her. And I'll be talking to her further, but it appears that this option is there should the property owner wish to avail himself of it.
Just to bring everybody, Donna and I and Jeff and Paul went over to see the house, the Appleton Road house. And we were more excited to think it looked better than we expected.
Oh, really?
And Susan Moon is a historical architect that he knows that has worked on the house.
So she's an architect. She is also the chairperson of London Britain's Historical Commission, which is how I happen to know her because I attend their meetings as a guest. She is currently working with the property owner of Lund's Tavern. You may have noticed in passing that there have been extensive renovations undertaken on the exterior there. She's also been involved in aspects of the renovations, interior renovations that recently occurred with the Welsh Baptist Chapel down in the preserve as well. And she's knowledgeable with good contacts, and the reason I suggested her is simply that potential conflicts of interest make it inappropriate for Chuck Phillips, who is the architect that serves on our Harbin Historical Commission, to be put in the position of offering advice and then essentially reviewing his own advice later, should he be called upon to do that. So this was an attempt to avoid a potential conflict of interest. And so that's why we're talking about that.
We were excited about it because it was in better shape than we thought it was, originally.
We're led to believe.
Were led to believe. And the young man who purchased it did not purchase it at all for that house. That wasn't his intent. If he can make it physically, financially viable, I guess, he doesn't want to put any money into it and have it fall down. So of course, if we can prove to him it's going to stand up, he might be willing to do something with it. He was excited about maybe, having an idea of doing something with it. And so we said we'd try in our own way to, help him do something with it. So, yeah, Paul stepped forward, at least in that capacity. He came and talked to the zoning officer, or?
He did indeed.
Okay.
Everything seems to be going
Okay.
along
Yeah.
slow and smooth.
That's
Good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Curtis is here to go over the Franklin Sportsman's Association monthly update.
Good evening. Thanks, Jim. It's Matt, Jim, this is Matt Curtis here for the FSA, here to do the monthly readout for the Board of Supervisors with a few updates. Membership No change in membership. It's still full and we are still maintaining a waiting list. Reference to hunting seasons, I would make note that the firearm shotgun season will be opening up the Monday after Thanksgiving, November 27th.
It's Saturday, right?
I'm sorry, the 27th. For 2 weeks, they'll close on the 11th. There are no updates as far as the parcels. They're all marked. All the setback boundaries are marked. Everything's been noted prior to the seasons. As far as the harvest report goes, as of tonight, I did double check. There's been one deer harvested at this point. With an update for community service, we've through July, the two most recent events were the Bamshire parking lot, the mowing of the entire parking lot, the rocky areas, all of that trimmings around. And then most recently Crossing Park. The members of the FSA were down at Crossing Park in October, trim back the brush lines on the mow lines and all that. So that brings it for a total of about 77.5 hours since July of community service for the township. Any questions?
I'll just say it's been warm, so there hasn't been a lot of hunting until this week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been too warm for anybody to get out there.
So is it too warm because you don't want to wear gear, or is it too warm because the deer don't move?
I think it's both. It's a few things. First of all, it's too hot to sit out there, and then yeah, I mean, even though the rut had started a couple of weeks ago, nobody wants to go out in 75-degree temperature, sit in a tree.
Well, I'm coming to get my corns and all the deer are coming to my
Yeah,
house.
this week things are moving. Yeah, okay. So things are starting to heat up, and then I'll be
So you could do some.
Yeah.
harvesting, 'cause
I'm making the deer
So
park down in my backyard.
a little buffer.
Yeah, typically we don't see as much activity when it's been warm. It has been pretty mild recently. So I do expect a lot of us, myself included, of an uptick, with the weather being colder, it is a little more comfortable. In the
Sure.
woods.
Good. Well, happy hunting.
Thank
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Patrick.
Appreciate it.
All right, as far as the planning commission report, there was no meeting in November, so I guess we don't have a report.
That's correct. Yes.
So we're going to move into business, and the first item that we have is for Guy, and it's the MS4 and PennDOT discussion. So Guy, you could update us on where we're at with that initiative.
Sure. Good evening. I have been in communication with Daryl St. Clair of PennDOT. The most recent draft that I sent to him, he modified and returned with some additional language. That additional language was satisfactory to me. It primarily involved payment methods. You'll recall there was some discussion regarding how the township would forward its funds, whether it would be to PennDOT and then from PennDOT to the consultant, or whether it would be directly forwarded to the consultant. And they added some language, which I really would want to go over with Melissa just to make sure it wasn't too onerous on our part. They did accept the language that the board wanted to put in regarding the future maintenance obligations and the fact that it would not be the responsibility either for operation or maintenance of the improvements if they were constructed outside of the township's municipal boundaries. It's still a little foggy in my mind which direction those projects are going to take, but my understanding is that they will not be improvements within the township's boundaries. So we were able to convince Mr. St. Clair to include language that I have not seen in any of the form agreements that have been forwarded to me for my review or that I made the effort to find and review. So I am comfortable with where the document sits. Jeff had asked me if I was comfortable perhaps throwing it up on the screen tonight. I didn't want to do that because the documents that I have are not perfect. They were sent to me by PennDOT, but what I would like to do is recommend to the board that we begin down. Oh, one other thing. He also sent to me a form purchase order for the services. He has not sent me one for Franklin necessarily, but the purchase order is a standard Commonwealth form which presents no problems to me and really doesn't have any legal terms and conditions on it. It's just the PO. So what I'd like to do is recommend to the board that I finalize the language that have been exchanged in red line versions back and forth. I did tell Daryl today that I was going to be presenting my recommendations tonight during this meeting. And I think the board and I have gone as far as we can with PennDOT to make sure that we limit the risk to the township for any unexpected costs down the line. So that's generally my report on the my negotiations with PennDOT.
So Guy, there was another issue that came up at the last meeting, as I remember correctly, and it had to do not so much with the contract, but a validation or verification that the numbers that PennDOT's telling us that they've actually been agreed to with DEP. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so has that been verified?
Not a problem. They're happy to do it. I don't have that verification tonight, but that's something that's been crafted into the underlying understanding. So yes.
Good.
And I'll
So-
have something more concrete for you. I just don't have it tonight.
Okay, so if that, assuming that happens and you've already tackled the big one, which was making sure we don't have any maintenance obligations. So I just want to thank you for that. That makes me feel a little bit better.
No, I'll say this, Mr. St. Clair was willing to have a discussion and understands the concern. And when someone says to me, the language that you're putting in basically repeats what I already have, my response is, well, then what's the harm? As long as it's consistent, why is there a problem? It would make my people feel better, and he didn't have any issue with that.
So we don't have a motion tonight, Guy. We're going to finalize the document and then propose the motion either at the December meeting, I suppose would be fine. I don't think we're under a deadline. So
I think we'll be ready by December, and I would queue it up for that.
okay.
As long as Mr. Eastburn was okay with it and the board felt it was manageable on the agenda.
Okay, great. Don, Jim, any comments?
No, sounds good. Thanks, Guy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Guy.
So we got that one. And Guy, I think you're back on again.
Yeah.
And this time it's Act 167 ordinance. So that was what we talked about with John. What, where we're at with that, with the
Right,
ordinance
so-
that's been crafted.
So your engineers and I have been discussing that, and on November 9th, I received from Ms. Adams the final language that had been crafted after the conversations between the board and your engineers and between Peter and Jessica and I. I'm looking through it just for some of the final terms and conditions. It's 99.9% okay with me. I just want to make sure when I say, yeah, this is what we're going to advertise, that I'm completely confident. I just can't tell you that I have the 0.01% by this evening. I really didn't have an opportunity over the weekend to drill down into it. But it's moving along, and I have the final language. And it looks okay to me, but I want to continue to complete my review.
So Guy, I want to know anything that changed, because I was through it pretty thoroughly. Something's changed since the last time we talked, just if that can be indicated the next time we see it.
Sure, and what I'm happy to do, again, if it's okay for with Mr. Eastburn, I've taken you off the screen. I pulled up my email communication with Ms. Adams. There are some following things I'm reviewing, the table of conduct, the table of contents. There's some yellow highlighted text in a few places that will need final revisions. There's some meeting dates that I want to make sure I've got correctly. There's some question in our mind whether the first 2 pages referencing the countywide ordinance should be there or not. She's asked me to remove that if I think it was necessary. I just haven't had an opportunity to come to a conclusion on that. If there's no objection, I'm happy to forward this, Jeff, to the board and or to you, that you can forward to the board and they can see what the final document and the final appendices look like. It wouldn't be difficult at all for me to do that right now, and then we'd be ready to address that when in December, or at least we'd be ready to address that when the board was ready to advertise.
But what's important, I don't want a clean document. I want a document that shows me what's changed. Right?
You'll get that. That's correct. And it's yes, I will make sure you get that.
Okay, so I don't want to read it again.
So if we want to vote on this in December, we need to advertise it for how long?
The advertisement is a 30-day period.
30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we might not be able to do that then.
There's no rush for that either.
Yeah. No, I don't think there is.
Because we don't
So
have the MS4.
so we'll review it in December, advertise it, and then we'll talk about it in January.
Yeah, and when you say December, you mean December board meeting, because we want
December board
because
meeting.
we want to keep the workshop meeting.
Yeah,
open
yeah.
for the budget.
Let me be clear. December board meeting, the workshop meeting will discuss the treasurer's, the budget. The December board meeting, we'll talk about this 167. And then we'll, with the anticipation that we'll advertise it after that and have it on the channel.
Jessica made me aware she wouldn't be attending tonight, but I only think it's fair for me to thank her for the efforts that she put in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is not a small task for sure. So I appreciate the work. All right. Well, thank you, Guy.
You're welcome.
So the next topic is the Wendy Richardson conditional plan approval. And so we have a motion here. I think the long story short is they're going to go ahead and bring their property up to code. They're not going to remove the asphalt. They're just going to do the stormwater.
They're gonna bring it into compliance.
Into
The
compliance.
plan cannot be recorded until that is done.
And the plan will not be, that's right. And so the board had discussed that this is what we wanted to do at the last meeting. We just needed to get that information to her. They agree. And so now it looks like I have a pretty significant motion to read.
Yes.
So let me start at the top here. All right, so this original motion here, Jeff, says October 6th, 2022, but this has been updated and accurate for tonight, yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go. My proposed motion. I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they conditionally approve the final minor subdivision plan for properties known as numbers 2 and 3, Richardson subdivision plan, last revised September 6th, 2022, with the following waivers and conditions so the properties are in compliance with all federal, state, county, and local regulations. Waivers from section 22-202, the definition of a minor subdivision plan, section 25-502.1L2, and section 22-727.1.B, requiring monuments along the tract boundary and street right of way. Section 22-502.I.L 14, from requiring the location of all existing wells and sewage areas within 100 feet of the property. Section 22-502.1.M1, from requiring contours, lines being established by a field survey. Section 22-502.1.M5, the need for delineation of steep slope areas. Section 22-502.1.M8, requiring the need for a wetland delineation. Section 22-502.1.M9, 2-722.11.d. This section, which requires primary and replacement sewage systems. Site design standards. The Franklin Township Planning Commission is recommending that the Board of Supervisors not require the property owners to install sidewalks as per section 22-710 and street lighting as per section 22-711 of the Franklin Township Site Design Standards. The approval is conditioned on, and the applicant will, 1, work with the owners of lots number 3 and the Franklin Township Zoning and Code Enforcement Officer to bring lot number 3 into compliance with any federal, state, county, and local stormwater management regulations as to the stone millings depicted on lot number 3 and complete such work prior to the recording of the plan. 2, place the approved waivers on the cover sheet of the plan prior to the plan being recorded by Franklin Township. 3, have the appropriate notarized signature blocks and signatures for both lots will be required prior to the plan being recorded. 4, work with the township administrator to keep their escrow account up to date and pay any outstanding invoices the applicant has with the township for this project, including recorded fees. And 5, the applicant shall work with the township solicitor, township engineer, and the township operations manager until there is successful completion of these tasks. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you, Donna. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And I need to go drink of water now.
I think next. Next, has everyone on the board had a chance to look and review Mark Kruzmeyer's letter of October 27th in your meeting book?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If so, and there's no comments, I'll make a motion. So I make a motion that Franklin Township refunds the remaining money that Mark Kruzmeyer has in the escrow account with Franklin Township. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well, I know he had asked to have fees returned, but that's not really our profit. I mean, we were trying anything from the escrow, but any fees that were paid and that we've done work on, we're not going to return that.
No, just the escrow.
I hope he understands that.
So just a quick summary. I don't know if you can, Jeff, give just a quick summary of what this is about. I mean, I think this is real. Just basically what has happened is there's maybe some unnecessary work done on his property. And we put in escrow money to make sure that work is completed. Yes.
Yes.
And so the work has been deemed unnecessary. So we're simply refunding the resident his money,
The remaining money.
the remaining money in the escrow account. Right. So, yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. There's no other if there's no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with the motion carries 4-0.
All right, so I will take the next topic. This is the Mount Olivet Road discussion, and I can hand it over to Jeff and Guy to discuss where we're at with Mount Olivet Road.
So Jeff, I'll start and then you can you can direct me as you see fit. I've been working with the interim solicitor of the county on this matter. I became involved in it when I became more involved with the township, and I met a couple of times with Ms. Friends, a very capable and cooperative solicitor. When I saw this on the initial draft of the agenda, I reached out for Colleen, and I suggested to her that I had looked at the form of agreement that the county was interested in, that it was fine with me, that I had some preliminary conversations with the township about using that form. I told her that there was some delay on our end, certainly not unjustifiable delay, so that we could understand the type of machinery or vehicles that would be using that structure, to make sure that it was consistent with safety regulations. And I understand from Jeff that we have that information now, that it's consistent with our expectations, or at least our desires. So when I spoke to Ms. Friends today, I said, Colleen, I'm going to appear tonight with the board and I'm going to tell them as far as the county is concerned, we can put this on the agenda for approval. She said that was fine, whatever I wanted to do. So in my view, it's full speed ahead unless Jeff, the board or any of your engineers have any other concerns. I have the forms all queued up for the disposition of that property.
So I have a question to Dave, because Dave, I know you had a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of concern, but you did have some concerns about this. Are you satisfied now?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
So the primary concern was we're taking ownership of a bridge. And it's primarily going to be used as a pedestrian bridge. And the bridge is rated for a certain weight. And the concern was a couple of times a year, a farmer drives over that bridge with his equipment. Will that significantly deteriorate the bridge with time? And based on the weight and usage, this is simply not going to be a concern for many, many years. The bridge is in good shape. And so we're not terribly concerned. If this was a road that cars were traversing, then we would be this is a completely different ballgame, and there would become some concern. But I think our engineer and we've done our due diligence. There's very little risk. So yeah, to answer your question, I think I'm good. Yeah.
So Guy, I want to applaud you. I thought it was interesting how they looked at the different machinery and said, there's no way the whole machine, the two machines together could be on the road at the same time. So therefore you don't have the issue. So I don't know whoever came up with that, but I
No, don't thank me. That was someone else deserves the credit for that.
That was Ron Reagan and Jeffrey.
There you go. That's why.
Do we have a motion, or are we just moving? We're just moving forward with the process.
Consensus of the board that. Just a consensus of the board that Guy and I can move forward and schedule this for the December board meeting for approval.
I think we can, unless there's any.
You're good, right?
I'm good.
Thank you, Guy, for all of your help.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
Both the machines can't fit on the bridge at the
Same
same time.
time.
So we're good.
I was reading, I'm like, this is a bad thing. That's like, no, it's a good thing.
Right.
And the other interesting thing, just for the record too, the farmer did put us on his certificate of insurance as an additional insured.
That's good.
So that is also a benefit.
Okay.
Double coverage.
Okay. Moving on, did everybody get a chance to read the letter from Nuri Heckroth?
Mhm.
And do we have any discussion about that at all? Do we have any background at that?
No, this is just an extension of time for a subdivision plan that he has in right now.
Right.
Nori has just asked for this extra time just because
Yeah.
of general circumstances.
Okay.
So this is nothing out of the ordinary, and this would be granting an extension until the end of June.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that we can't approve it sooner, or he can bring the plan back in to make it active again.
Okay.
This is just kind of like a placeholder.
So he's planning on building an auto shop.
He would
And-
like to.
And it's small business. He's trying to get this installed and just needs some more time to get everything together. So.
Sounds good to me. So I'll make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve Nuri Heckroth's extension letter request received by the Township Office on November 11th, 2022, that would extend the review clock of his subdivision plan until June 30th, 2023. May I have a second?
Second that, Dawn.
Donna will second. Any discussion? No. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. All right. Jim.
Yeah, next up,
Jim?
yeah, as far as the township audit RFP. The RFPs are out to 3 municipal auditors. 2 of them are working on it and they've gotten back to me. It's funny that our incumbent auditor has not returned anything yet. So I'm going to give them a call tomorrow and make sure they got it. Yeah. But the RFPs are due on Monday. And I was thinking about maybe 1 hour executive session that we can break up into like 3 parts and have them come and present for maybe 15 minutes apiece. Sometime in the week of the 28th.
So why does it be the exact?
Because it doesn't have to be. I was just thinking if it's just maybe the board and the elected auditors, and then each auditing firm comes and.
Yeah, I think it should be public. I don't think it should be.
Public?
exec,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me weigh in on,
Yeah.
that because I recall,
Go ahead, Guy. I have something too, if you don't.
yeah, hold on for a second. I want to.
Yeah.
Here we go. My recollection is that we had a conversation that was a close cousin of the one we're having now. And I think it was my view, and it's just a view born out of about a caution that executive sessions are not really attended by potential consultants. Executive sessions are the elected officials, perhaps with their advisor or their lawyer, discussing things that are appropriate EX materials. I believe that as soon as you introduce a consultant into the room, you break the executive session privileges and protections you have under the Sunshine Act. So I would encourage the board, if they're going to have an interview of these 3 or perhaps 4 auditing firms, that they be conducted in public. It doesn't mean that everyone gets a chance to ask questions, but at least it's transparent and consistent with the act. So that would be my recommendation.
One option could be to maybe have one come at a workshop meeting. Right, and then one it depends on how many people respond. So if they only have 2, maybe one comes at the workshop meeting, one comes at the board meeting.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is that I thought we talked about last time that we might not want the opposing firms listening to each other as they present.
So we had a situation, and that is an excellent observation. We had a situation where we were filling a vacancy in a large municipal agency, and we had 3 contestants, and we were going to interview those 3 contestants, and that was done separately. So it was a public meeting, but the folks who were vying for that particular position were not allowed to observe the questions that were asked and the answers that were given. That would, as you suggest, give someone an unfair advantage. Another way around the prohibition of a closed meeting is not to have a quorum. And by that, I mean, perhaps you have a gold ribbon, two gold ribbons, the supervisors who conduct the interviews and then report back in an executive session. But I appreciate the concern that you've mentioned, and there are ways around that concern.
So let's just think about timing here. I hate to drag this out, but we have 2 meetings in December. Right. So if we could at least have 2 conversations that way. And then we could have, so within 30 days, this is what I'm saying, is we have the workshop meeting in December, board of supervisors meeting, workshop meeting in January, and then the board meeting in January with our decision.
Well, the workshop meeting in January is like, because remember, we do our.
Yeah, we don't have it in January. do we?
It's right in the beginning, right? So right in the beginning.
That's
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, when do the auditors start their work? I mean, they might want to.
March.
Was it? Okay, because I didn't know if they wanted to get it in their budget.
For the January meeting.
Or we could get our 2 gold ribbon money
Yeah.
mines.
I don't like the idea
Yeah.
of two gold. I think
Yeah.
we should all be.
I wanted the actual elected officers to be there too, so.
Yeah, and let them do their pitch. And maybe they'll listen to each other, but a lot of times they're so arrogant, they're gonna do it their own way anyway. So
Why don't you want to just spread it out over the workshop and workshop in the December meeting?
So,
Get
yeah.
1 and 2 or 2 and
You
1.
think you're gonna hear from.
I hate to
the
be,
third
like,
one?
I hate to, I hate to be,
Why don't you?
I'd rather have them all at the same day.
All
So
right.
this way they, like, I don't know what
Can
day
they-
that is,
Can they
but
come in,
like I said, it will only be 15 minutes. Maybe
Can
Jeff
they-
could let them in,
come in separately, yeah,
present, and
At
then
different
go
times.
back out.
Right.
Then
Well, yeah, I mean,
if the one that already went first listens to the second one, because it's already over for them.
to tell you the truth, I don't have a strong opinion either way. So if we want to do all 3 in December, we could do all 3 in December board meeting.
In the board meeting? Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And we
And
could-
it would only be 15 minutes
Yeah.
each, so it's not gonna take up a whole night.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
That works for me.
And we could do 1, 2, 3, they could come in and.
So you think the planning, I mean, the workshop meeting is already full? Don't do it in the workshop
We
meeting.
had the budget on the workshop meeting.
Okay, that'll take
we
most of the time.
could do it. I mean, the budget, I don't think the budget's gonna
Up
take
to you.
hours. I think it might take an hour.
Might force us to get through the budget.
True.
And you, see, it all depends what you want to do. If you want to do the board, have these come in and then have another thorough discussion, that's going to take more time. Are you going to listen to them and then have a discussion later?
So I think the plan was just to listen to them,
Yeah.
and then we could discuss at the next
So I think
meeting.
you could do that.
Let's, yeah, okay.
At the workshop
Workshop
meeting.
meeting.
Okay,
And then
So-
that gives you time to think about it, ask questions.
So the way we'll do maybe the way we could do the workshop meeting is the auditors come in first. We got 45 minutes. We know it's gonna be 45 minutes.
And they're done.
And then they're done. And then we go do the budget.
okay, that works.
And then when Melissa doesn't leave us out of the room before we're done.
That's right. All
I think
right.
we can do it.
I think we got a plan.
Okay, and then the last thing is, Guy, I'm okay with, if they respond to me on Monday, I'm okay with disseminating that to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, we just can't talk about
Right.
our feelings about the stuff.
Okay,
Feelings.
Yeah. How do we feel?
that's good.
Excellent.
Okay.
We're getting
All right, there we go. So that's the last item on our agenda. So we've got public comments. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name, whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do you have any additional public comment? John's, you got one?
All right.
All right, here we go. All right.
If it's a bad one.
That's right. I'm turning the mic off.
It's John Auerbach, Franklin Township resident. I want to compliment the board in selecting Stefan Torres for the open supervisor position. I worked with Stefan for 6 years on the board and find his character of the highest. And he's also a financial whiz. He's involved in the investment business. He understands money and investments, especially the energy business, really well. He and I really followed the EIT income back in the early days because we had some years where we were concerned about not getting the income we want. And so that's what that whole graphing thing got started back then. The other thing, he was involved in a lot of projects, but one thing that he did do is he was responsible for all those plannings out there. Because there was some concern expressed to the township about we're trying to screen our equipment and our municipal site from people. And his job is every year was to develop a set of planning. So we spent somewhere from $2,000-3,000 every October. And he was responsible for putting those projects together, contacting suppliers, getting the job done. So it was one notable thing he did among many. So compliments to the board. So.
Excellent.
John.
Thank you, John. Okay, so if there isn't any other public comment, do we have anybody on the, no? All right, so if there isn't any further comment.
Yeah, Dave, on this product, make a comment.
Sure.
One is the $20,000 you guys are putting in for the open space reserve. If I could suggest, that doesn't get very much. If you guys could, make it 100,000 or whatever you can put in, but just please consider more than 20,000. That doesn't.
No, we put it in every year. We put
I know,
20
but that it doesn't get. Anyway, just please consider more than 20,000. The other comment is, when Paul was talking about the Mount Olivet and the history in the book and everything, it's really exciting. And he and I walked out there one time and saw that the remains of the structure has really fallen apart in the last, 15 years. It's really degraded.
Mm.
And it'll be down to the ground level in probably the next 10 years. And if I think it's an orphaned property. So if the township wants to preserve what little is left, just for posterity, maybe spend some money just having a mason repoint the remaining brick, and that would stabilize it, because the brick that's there with the lime mortar is very soft and very vulnerable to freeze thaw attack. So if you repoint it with some modern mortar, you could at least preserve what's there. Otherwise, it'll be on the ground in about 10 years. So just something to think about.
Paul, I missed it. So what, is this on Olivet Road? Is that what you're talking about?
It's the remains of the Mount Olivet Church. There's, I don't know, Paul, what would you call it? Like a one wall standing or 1 1/4, something like that?
Yeah, I'd have to look at it again. There may be one wall standing. It's a little dangerous because there is a cellar and the cellar's exposed. But
yeah, well, the building collapsed into the cellar, so it's
Right.
not like there's any structure left. I'm just saying,
Right.
if you guys want anything left to the church, spend
So-
$10,000 or $5,000 and have it pointed. I don't know what it would cost, but you could just have it pointed, and that would preserve it as it is for many decades. But if you just leave it and let the weather take care of it, it'll be on the ground. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what you want. So it's up to you all.
So the property, at least during the time that I've been living in Franklin Township, has had a series of trustees. So I don't know that it's technically orphaned.
But the last trustee passed away, right? Greg McCall.
Well, it's not clear to me what happened after the last trustee passed away, whether his son took over or not. And I don't think we ever had to clarify it. So in order to determine, we would have to do some research in order to clarify the exact situation of the property. So I mean, your point about it being potentially orphaned is valid. I just don't know if that's actually true or not. If there was ever an assigned trustee to follow, I believe it was Chuck McBaugh. That's all I can really add. It's not much, I'll admit.
So even if Chuck McFall's son took over trustee, he no longer lives in the township. But if he is still trustee, then getting his permission would all that would be needed. But
Correct.
I don't
But
know.
it would be important to clarify what the situation of the property is, because
clearly he's not maintaining the property, right? It's a mess. It's overgrown again. It's a mess. So all the work Chuck did is gone. It's overgrown. Anyway, I don't know if any of you, Donna, it sounds like you haven't been there, but I suggest.
I didn't hear what you said in the beginning, but I know exactly what you're talking about because Jeff had us all there. So I know.
Okay. All right. Well, I recommend you all go out and take a look at it and see, maybe have a mason look at it. I would suggest an Amish mason, not somebody from Wilmington or something, just to repoint the bricks. Would preserve it. Or maybe you just consider it a hazard and tear it down. I don't know, but we're so excited about the book, yet you have a structure there that we're ignoring. All right, that was it. That's all the public comment. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Any additional public comment? All right. If not, I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:25.
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Jim. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right. Motion carries 4-0. Good night, everybody.
Good meeting. Well done.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great Thanksgiving.